Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. In this day and age of video game journalism, it's always important that no matter what is in front of you, you should speak on all of the discussion, all of the information involved when you're doing a story. In the case of the failure, the abject, absolute, astronomical $200 million failure of a video game such as Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, regardless of what you see, what you perceive as the actual reasons behind said failure, it's not exactly a bad idea to discuss what other people, the customers, the fans, and what they feel. Because if you leave out what others see as pertinent information, you can come across as having a bit of bad faith trying to pass the blame. And that looks to be the case in this situation. In this article from That Park Place, Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier claims Sweet Baby Inc. boycott that crushed Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League sales is, quote, angry hallucinations created by grifters. It also is not going to help your reputation if you go out and insult the people who are criticizing your work and the game. Let's continue. Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier, who previously worked at Kotaku, not entirely relevant, but he's got a history. He's worked for quite a few video game outlets, and now he's over at the video game division of Bloomberg. Claims that the Sweet Baby Inc. boycott that helped crush the sales. I do think it once it was found out, it definitely stopped people from buying it after the game released. Of course, the astronomically terrible gameplay didn't help either. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is angry hallucinations created by grifters. Schreier recently published an article for Bloomberg claiming to reveal inside details about the failure of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. In his article, he claims that the game's $200 million failure, that's a lot of millions of dollars, is due to, quote, a constantly shifting vision, a culture of rigid perfectionism, and a genre pivot that was ill-suited for the studios. The idea that all of a sudden Rocksteady is going to be able to make a multiplayer live service game when they've never done that before, I can see all of those things, all of the above, contributing to the failure of the game, the bad writing, the piss-poor gameplay loop. But to completely ignore, also plagued by countless delays. Now, if you take that last little statement, countless delays, to deny Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement in the game whatsoever is what I would consider to be bad faith. And then, again, we'll see what he has to say when people ask him about that. As the article continues, he makes no mention of SBI detected Steam curator list created by Brazilian gamer Cabrutus Rambo that has nearly 400,000, this vocal minority of gamers that just don't like diversity, equity, and inclusion. Almost 400,000? That's not a vocal minority. That's a hell of a chunk of gamers out there that aren't interested in SBI involvement in a video game. If they see it, they just tend to close their wallets and go find something else. That is a massive chunk of change when you're talking about a $50, $60, and $70 game. You go ahead and do the math. The list is essentially a boycott list of all games. Boycott or keep an eye out. Be careful with this. Wait for the reviews to come in. Because I think simply boycotting a game because SBI is involved or any number of these consultancy groups, another buzzword we're going to learn to hate. Just because they're involved, they were involved in God of War Ragnarok, and God of War Ragnarok, I've heard, is a fantastic game. Good story, good gameplay, and a fun gameplay loop. SBI was involved in that game. It sold well, it did well. I hear it was quite popular. I haven't played a God of War game since the 1 and 2, so I don't have any comments to make on it, only what I've seen other people talk about. Wait for the game to come out. Wait for people to review it. Wait to see if it's fun. Now, at the same time, if you choose to shut your wallet down simply because of SBI involvement, more power to you. I compliment you, and there's absolutely no problem with that. I've always said, vote with your wallet. You do that. Absolutely, I commend you for it. Oh, let's see. Where was I? Boycott list of all the games that SBI worked on that are available for purchase on Steam. The first game added to that list was The Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Since its creation, the list has evolved to include games that are reflected with DIE agenda, but have not employed SBI. Okay, so the list is starting to include numerous games that aren't necessarily associated with Sweet Baby Inc., but are obviously DIE, have a DIE agenda. And yes, I'm saying DIE because DEI just doesn't fit, because DIE, that's where your game goes to. Cabrutus has also added one game that he recommends to the list, The Great Rebellion, which he declares as 100% DIE free. So that's not a bad thing. There's a positive list. This is going to be a positive list of games on the list. That's saying list a whole lot too many times. Let's see. Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement in the game was a major problem for many games, regardless of how many times people came out and said, oh, they barely did this. They worked on a little bit of dialogue. Some of the, I guess, extra catchphrases that the characters made, trying to push blame away from SBI, which is fine. But hey, people are going to see what they want to see. People are going to form their opinions based on, well, how about this? I said this on my live stream. I'm going to say it again in this video. We don't have to blame Sweet Baby Inc. or any number of these consultancy groups directly for the failure of a game, or the trash writing of a game. We don't have to blame them directly. However, indirectly, they are involved with the game. And when more and more games come out that are garbage, essentially, poor writing, preachy dialogue, forced diversity, inclusion, and equity, and top it all off, SBI or a similar consultancy group is involved, it starts to look like a pattern. So instead of saying, oh, they're directly responsible for the failure of the game, so what? Their involvement with the game may be indirectly responsible. Regardless of what it is, it's coming across as these developers are putting DIE ahead of story, ahead of character development, ahead of gameplay loop, and that's a problem. So, indirectly, I'm going to blame them. YouTuber Endymion, who has nearly 250,000 subscribers, noting that writer Amy Lee Shaw and Sweet Baby Inc. ruined the game. Indirectly, I would say. He shared in February, a week after the game released, quote, of course, Amy tries to take the normal high ground here, but the truth is that the damage is done, and that her and the team over at Sweet Baby has done to Suicide Squad, not to mention other games like Spider-Man 2 and more. Everything they touch lessens and cheapens the stories and the characters, yes, because they're focusing on the DIE entirely too much. Focus on the story first. Again, I'm beating a dead horse with this, or sound like a broken record. Which one is it? You decide. Broken record over and over and over again. We keep saying this. Give us good entertainment. Give us good writing. Give us good TV shows. Give us fun, interesting video games. And add your nonsense at the end. Put in your nonsense. But make sure the game works. First of all, make sure the game works. Okay? Make sure the game works at launch. Make sure the gameplay loop is interesting. Make sure the world is interesting. Make sure the story is interesting and will draw people in. And then change things around after the fact. But make sure the game is fun first. Later on in the quote, now openly stating your game has any relations to Sweet Baby has become code for people to avoid the product. Pretty much like, yeah, avoid the product entirely like the play, because chances are whatever your game is, if SBI is involved, it'll be ruined and made into a pandering mess to some capacity. That is where the audience is sitting right now. Because over and over again, you have a couple of abject failures in video games with poor development, poor story, poor characters, uninteresting characters, and preachy message. And people are just staying away from them. Top it all off, that the people working on these games will turn around and attack the critics with insults, accusations of bigotry, racism, and the like. over and over again. So that's going to turn off more and more people. If you don't like our game, well, you're just a nasty little istophobe. But getting to the crux of the whole article and, well, the video, Jason Schreier decided to respond. Someone called him out on Twitter after this little article. Justin NC, not one mention of the woke tone turning off fans or SBI influence. Now, I'm not sure about the woke tone. Well, you be the judge. Again, I didn't play the game. I only saw other people playing it. But not saying anything about Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement, to which Jason Schreier responds, this article is about what actually happened. Well, Jason, what actually happened is that Sweet Baby Inc. was involved in the game. They had a hand in the development of the game, regardless of when they got into the mix, because, as it's already been said, countless delays. Now, what was the cause of those delays? Could have been the writing, could have been anything about Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement, not just the shifting visions, culture of perfectionism, and genre pivot. Could it have been in anything else there? Justin continues, right, so it didn't have any effect on development behind the scenes. Of course not. Absolutely not. Remember, the developers are the ones who brought these consultancy groups in to work on their game. So we can't blame those consultancy groups, right? Let's see. Development behind the scenes, hiring practice, and turning off millions of fans. Do you not remember this game is what kicked off the SBI drama to begin with? To not even mention it is negligent, absent journalism, dishonestly so. And I will agree with that. To completely and totally leave out any mention of it is bad faith. But Jason responds, I asked 24 people who worked on the game I asked 24 people who worked on the game what went wrong, and not a single one mentioned the word Sweet Baby. You think? Huh. Of course they're not going to say anything because they work at the studio. Nobody, these game devs, they want to keep their job, so of course they're not going to say anything about that, anonymous or not. Jason's quote continues, you are chasing angry hallucinations created by grifters who make money off your rage. And there you have it, folks. We are nothing more than grifters chasing angry hallucinations, except for the actual fact that we're not chasing angry hallucinations. We're showing what these people are actually saying. We're showing their videos. We're showing their tweets. They're showing their responses to all the criticism. These are not angry hallucinations. These are screenshots. These are recordings. And the internet, and as we all know, the internet is forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Let's see. Justin comes back. But to not even mention it yourself in passing, at least in the article, even if you disagree. And that's another thing. You may disagree with the idea that SBI's involvement had anything to do with the failure of the game, but I do believe it's something that should be acknowledged because that's what the players see. That's what the players feel. You remember them? The customers? Jason responds, of course. Last thing I'll say on this topic. The premise and story of the Suicide Squad killed the Justice League were the vision of Sefton Hill, director of the Arkham trilogy. Anyone who tells you that Sweet Baby Inc. made them kill no. Wow. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of a straw man argument because nobody is saying that. Nobody's saying Sweet Baby made them kill Batman. They're talking about the dialogue. They're talking about the dialogue. The piss poor dialogue, the writing, the treatment of the characters themselves, the writing, the biographies in the characters. Sure, everyone can have a problem with the fact that they killed Batman because, well, that looks like it's going to be his last instance, his last voice acting for Batman, although they came out and said, no, he's coming back one more time. But of course they're going to have a problem. I don't think people blamed Sweet Baby for Batman's death in the game. But, you know, one thing's for sure, Batman's death in the game did lead to less and less sales. They watched people play it and realized, like, wow, that's how you handled it. And of course, the piss poor way that they handled all the male superheroes' deaths in the game and how atrocious they were, nonsensical, just absolutely nothing, versus how Wonder Woman died. Again, you make your own decision on that. Of course, the biography of Wonder Woman and how she was praised and all this other stuff. And I believe Green Lantern was compared to a narc or a cop, or yeah, absolute disdain when talking about the male characters, but nothing but love and affection when talking about Wonder Woman. What do you make of Jason Schreier denying? Par for the course, I guess. You can give Jason Schreier all the credit in the world for the things that he's done in the past for different video game studios and the gaming industry, but also criticize him for how long he's held on to some of that information assessed about Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, and what was going on behind the scenes, because I heard he held on to that information for a little while. But other situations like this, complete what I see as bad faith, not mentioning at all what the customer sees, what the fan sees, and then when questioned about it, completely denying that it had anything to do with it. I see it as bad faith, but you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things that YouTubers beg you to do, and I hope to see you on the next one.